Ever look at a complex chess position and wonder how a grandmaster just knows what to do? It can seem like magic. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify that exact thought process. We're going to give you the tool they use to read any position on the board.
You know the feeling, right? You sit down, you look at all those pieces, and it just feels, well, chaotic. You know there's a good move in there somewhere, but just figuring out what to even focus on first, it can be totally overwhelming. If that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place.
See, for most of us, the board can look like a random jumble of threats and possibilities. But for a grandmaster, it's not a mess at all. It's a structured map, full of signposts, weaknesses, and clear pathways to victory. And the best part is, you can learn to read that map too.
So, what's the big secret? It's not some kind of unattainable genius they were born with. Nope. It's a system, a clear, repeatable checklist that the pros use, often without even thinking about it, to evaluate any position in seconds. And we're going to break that system down step by step. And here it is, the whole shebang. This is the 7-step framework. Just take a look. They're ordered perfectly, from the most immediate checks to long-term strategy, and finally, execution. This is the roadmap that's going to take you from feeling confused to feeling clear and confident. Let's walk through it. Okay, let's start with the first 3 steps. I want you to think of this part as the emergency room triage for the chessboard. These are the absolute, non-negotiable checks you have to make before you do anything else. First things first, who's ahead? Are you up material, down material, or is it equal? But it's not just about the raw numbers, right? A knight stuck on the rim of the board isn't nearly as good as a bishop slicing through the center. So count the pieces, sure, but immediately ask yourself, whose army is actually better? Next up, and this one is absolutely critical, you have to look at the kings. I mean, you could be a whole rook ahead, but if your king is about to get checkmated, that extra material means nothing. Zilch. The player with the safer king almost always has the advantage, because they can attack freely while their opponent is stuck defending. All right, now before you start cooking up some brilliant long-term strategic masterpiece, you have to scan for immediate tactics. This is the CCT rule: checks, captures, and threats. Are there any forcing moves for you? And just as important, are there any for your opponent? This quick scan stops you from blundering, and hey, it can often show you a winning shot right then and there. Okay, with all the immediate dangers handled, now we can zoom out. We can start looking at the long-term strategic features of the position. This is all about understanding the landscape of the game, the shape of the battle to come. The pawn structure is basically the skeleton of the entire position. It tells you which squares are strong, which files are open for your rooks, and where all the weaknesses are hiding. If you understand the pawn structure, you'll know what kind of plan you should be making. So what are you looking for exactly? Well, these are the big ones. You're looking for weaknesses, like doubled pawns or isolated pawns. Those become long-term targets. And you're looking for strengths, like a passed pawn, which can become a game-winning threat all on its own. Figuring out who has the better structure tells you who has the edge in the long run. Now, what I love about this step is how simple and powerful it is. In any position, some pieces are heroes, and some are, well, they're just kind of sitting there, not doing much. Your job is to identify which of your pieces is the laziest one on the board and make a plan to get it into the game. Just turning your worst piece into an active one can improve your entire army. So, we've analyzed the board from top to bottom. We've got a handle on the material, the kings, the immediate tactics, and the long-term strategy. Now it's time to turn all that understanding into a single, concrete move. This is where the magic really happens. You don't need to look at 40 different moves. No way. Based on everything you just figured out, you should only have 2 or 3 logical candidate moves that pop out at you. If you found a weak pawn, well, a candidate move is one that attacks it. If the enemy king is weak, a candidate move is one that goes after it. This focuses your mind like a laser. And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? The system acts like a filter. It takes that chaos of all the possible moves and just boils it down to a manageable few that are actually worth your time. You're not trying to boil the ocean anymore, you're just looking at the most promising options. Okay, so you take those few candidate moves and now you calculate. You actually visualize what happens next. If I go here, they go there, then I go here. And once you've picked your move, you do one final crucial thing, a blunder check. Just a quick scan to make sure you haven't missed a simple check or capture. It takes 5 seconds, and trust me, it will save you countless games. And this system, It creates absolute masterpieces. In this legendary game against Topalov, Kasparov realized his king was perfectly safe, that's step 2, while his opponent's was super exposed. This gave him the confidence to sacrifice material, unleashing his pieces and weaving this stunning attacking net that people still study today. It's beautiful.
Or how about this classic from way back in 1889? Lasker identified the single biggest weakness on the board, his opponent's king. Step 2 again. So he scanned for forcing moves, that's step 3, and then unleashed the famous double bishop sacrifice, giving up tons of material just to rip open the king's defenses for a decisive checkmate.
So what have we really done here? We've transformed the board from this big mystery into a map that you now have the tools to read. This is the path from feeling totally overwhelmed to feeling like you are in control.
Let's put it all together one last time. First, you do the immediate triage: material, king safety, and forcing moves. Then, you dive into the deep strategy, analyze the pawn structure, and find your best and worst pieces. And finally, you execute. Generate a few candidate moves, then calculate your way to a final decision. This is your new thought process.
Look, the first few times you try this, it might feel a little slow, a little mechanical. That's totally normal. But with practice, it becomes second nature. It becomes this fast, intuitive scan that gives you deep insight into any position you face. So, the most important thing to take away is this: the board is no longer a random mess. It's a map. It's full of clues just waiting for you to read them. Now that you have the guide, what journey are you going to begin?